Hi, everyone, and welcome to the One Podcast. I love my guest today. Not only is she phenomenal at what she does, but she happens to be one of my best friends. I've known her for decades. I would even
Yeah.
say a quarter of a century, but maybe we don't need to age ourselves. So anyway,
It's been a long time.
yes, thank God. And I'm so happy to have her on today and to have her talk to you about what she does. Her name is Sarah Steed, and she has taken a full-bodied approach to weight loss and brought in a bunch of different elements I have not seen before. Her approach to losing weight, getting fit, full body wellness, it's different than what you've heard in the past. And in my mind, it's one of the most freeing, liberating ways of getting your body to where you want it to be without feeling like I need to diet or starve myself. If you have done every fitness program out there before, I hope that you are open to knowing that it can be easier than you think. So I am so pleased that you are here, Sarah. Welcome to the One Podcast.
Thank you, my friend. It's
Oh,
an honor to be on here with you, actually.
I love it.
I'm excited. I know.
So I want to know, tell people a little bit about your background and how you got into this and why you ended up in this whole arena. What made you interested in this?
Oh, okay. So I first got into nutrition, served a mission in Russia, lived there for 18 months. And when I got home, I had a lot of health issues, primarily associated with parasites. And so I had to cleanse myself. I was also really emaciated. They didn't have a ton of food available unless you made it yourself. And we were just never home to make the food. And so that's where it birthed my interest in nutrition and exercise, getting muscle back on me, getting strong again, eating healthier. And that was back when I was 21. And then it just went from there. I've now been a nutrition and exercise consultant for 25 years. I call myself a fat loss alchemist for women. And I created a program called Diet Rebel. It's a full body approach to weight loss. I focus on spiritual, energetic, and emotional connection because truly our bodies are built from an energetic blueprint. So I help women lose weight, transform their bodies physically, emotionally, energetically. I work with women who are done with the punishment model of fitness and the starvation culture of dieting. So we don't count calories. It's like burning beliefs, syncing with body's natural rhythms, not fighting our body. Because it's not just about food and workout, right? Which is what we've been designed to believe that weight loss consists of. And those are important. But what I've found in the 25 years that I've done this is it's a lot more than that. It's about frequency as well. And so we tap into the spiritual, the hormonal, the emotional layers that actually hold fat in the body. Things like chronic stress, suppressed anger, even inherited beliefs, and even the shame, which for women has been handed down to us since birth. And it's like this low vibe, right? And so I love working with women. I've worked with women and men, but recently I realized that women need help. We need help rewiring our nervous system, stabilizing our blood sugar, shifting our identity from the inside out, because a lot of us believe our identity is what we look like on the outside. And that's why I like to call myself a fat loss alchemist, because it's like the alchemy of science and spirituality, a little bit of spiritual witchcraft, if you will. Just kidding, it's not that. But, it's taking the body and recreating it from all of the aspects, because we're not just physical, we're way more than that. We're spiritual, we're energetic. And so in this program, even though I transform bodies, it's not just transformation, it's liberating bodies. My goal is to help women feel powerful in their own bodies, not chained to a scale or to a certain outcome or chasing the need to be the version of us that is fit, but more to, I would say, rebel against the war that's been waged on our bodies. And that's why I specifically want to work with women, because sometimes we feel like we need to shrink in order to find our worth. But it's not about shrinking, it's about remembering, who we are. And so I think that when you get your body aligned in all these different ways, fat loss is just a natural byproduct. It's a byproduct of returning to who we are. And so that's the short version of what I guide women to do in shifting their frequency, rewiring their biology, releasing that stored weight energetically, emotionally, hormonally. So we're not just talking about food and fitness. We're talking about healing cycles, breaking generational patterns, really transforming. It's like transformation through the portal of intuition and frequency and radical acceptance and self-respect. So it's not a diet, even though I call it Diet Rebel. It's a rebellion. It's not a quick fix. With Easter coming up, it's like a resurrection, not just a physical one, but in all the ways, because we're not just physical beings. We are a vast array of emotional and mental and spiritual beings.
I love this because I've actually seen your program. I've heard of the things you've been doing, and I've known you forever.
Yeah.
Where did you realize along your path, since you've been into fitness and health for so long, or what was the transformation, the timing, the experience that made you start to say, okay, wait, yeah, this approach works. It does work for people, or it wouldn't be such a billion-dollar industry out there. But what was it that made you start to think, hold on a minute, how did that process evolve from you, from the typical fitness and diet into this full-bodied approach?
Yeah, that's a good question, because working with people has evolved drastically through the 25 years I've been doing this. I started primarily just focusing on creating menus and workouts for people, which was great. But I also was educated in emotional release therapy. What I noticed is with early on clients, especially women, as they lost body fat, emotions started to come to the surface, like emotions that had been buried, experiences that they had that they just couldn't deal with at the time that the experience took place. And it rose to the surface. There's a book called Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. And that is absolutely true. I've experienced it with so many female clients that as they lose that body fat, it's almost like the energy of those experiences were stored in the fat, because the first law of thermodynamics is energy is neither created nor destroyed. So it always exists. So if the energy is not worked through, then it's got to be stored somehow and somewhere in the body. I found that was fascinating. There were certain things that occurred, even my own experience, my own personal experience with trauma, with stress affecting my body, high levels of cortisol for an extended period of time, things like that. Just certain experiences throughout my life made me start seeing a bigger picture about how the body responds to what happens in our environment. And so a lot of it is actually belief systems. The body is very aware of what you believe about it and what it's lacking. And to be honest, the body is pretty straightforward. It needs 4 things. It needs nourishment, it needs movement, it needs rest, and it needs love, in my opinion. Those 4 things. Those are non-negotiables. And the typical American diet, we don't nourish our bodies, right? We eat, but primarily chemicals. They're not foods that are really nourishing. So instead of celebrating the abundance that our bodies already provide, we often fixate on what we don't have, whether it's a smaller waistline or it's a faster pace or it's a different reflection in the mirror, right? And so just like a child, if we're always telling our body what's wrong with it, how it's lacking, if we're telling a child what she's not doing right or where she's lacking also, then she's not going to thrive. So it's odd that we do that to our bodies, but we expect different results. And just that in combination with my own experience and what I've experienced with clients has really made me look at the bigger picture, a more holistic picture of how to produce body transformation. I think of the body kind of like as a treasure chest, realizing that the value doesn't lie in what it lacks. Because we don't look at a treasure chest and think, oh, it's just like an old box. Ew, It's what's inside of the box that's the value. And when we value and understand the value of that box based on what's inside of it, then we hold the box valuable as well. So a lot of times what prevents us from experiencing our full worth, it's how we neglect and mistreat and really fail to appreciate what's inside and what our bodies already contain, what's not even inside, but what our body's even capable of doing.
You're right. How often do we take the time to really look at and appreciate what it already does? I mean, I'm thinking back to my experiences, and there were times where I gained weight and I would have to lose it, and it was never that easy. I remember my own personal struggles with self-love and my appearance, and I remember thinking, I'm so far from self-love. I don't even know what that is. I can barely even get to self-acceptance, and it made me
Yeah.
frustrated. I still hear that out now. You've got to learn to accept yourself. Well, accepting yourself is still pretty sad. Like, we want to learn to love ourselves, but it's rare to be taught that from a young age. And so I remember for me looking back and thinking, okay, so I'm going to learn to appreciate. First, I'll just be grateful that I have a body. I mean, I don't know what it would be like without one. And then I'm going to find out and then appreciate how healthy it has been. I don't have broken bones. I don't have chronic illnesses. I really like the picture of a treasure chest. Like, what is inside it? I think for a lot of people, it is what you pointed out. We consistently look at it for what it is lacking or what is not acceptable anymore. Like, especially as I age, the more there's a separation between what I feel inside and what is reflected on the outside. And I know for a lot of women that happens. You're like, wait, that didn't used to sag like that. That wasn't all loose and wobbly. And where did my muscle go? And what's this? There's all sorts of things that, oh, I wish I would have, but I didn't appreciate it back then either. There is something that settled differently inside me when you were saying, look at and appreciate what it already does, especially if you're overweight and struggling with weight issues, or you're not able to gain muscle and get toned and get fit. Then we're consistently looking, if you're making the efforts and not seeing the rewards or the benefits of it, it's so frustrating. And then you're even beating it up more because I'm trying, I'm eating healthy. I hate broccoli and I eat it, and I'm going to the gym, and why can't I lose 5 pounds? Like you said, when you look at your body, would you treat a child that way? Would you treat another person that way with all the things? Some of us don't say it out loud. I wouldn't talk to my body the way I thought about it, but I certainly thought about it. And our thoughts are just as powerful as our words, if not more so. The minute I think it, it's reflected.
It's so true. And we're trained to think of ourselves that way, by the way, to not have a very good relationship with our body, especially women. And so that's why I focus on women and I love that you talk about the relationship to the body, because we put so much effort into our relationships with our children or our spouse or our friends, but we don't even consider the putting in the time and effort to have a relationship with our own body. I kind of feel like I'm a midwife to clients who carry like the silent scars of a society that taught us to wage war on our bodies, which is all of us in one form or another, right? So I really feel like in many ways, I want to build a new architecture of divine feminine power, one where we don't contort ourselves or conform ourselves to fit a narrative or to fit what the world or society expects us to be, but to really rise in wholeness and call our bodies to meet our power. Because I feel like the key to unlocking true power of the feminine in general is in the healing that must take place in our body. And that's where it begins, because your body is your partner. It's going to be with you for the rest of your life. No one else is. You can lose a spouse, you can lose a child, you can lose a parent, but you'll never lose your body. If you do, it's like you're moving on. So it is your ultimate partner. And I do believe that the body is this collection of miracles. Its value doesn't lie in what it lacks, but in it holds. That's what I love about it. It's going to make me choked up because doing this work, it's incredible how the body just holds us. It takes care of us. It's always there for us. Even when we feel like it let us down by gaining weight, it did that to help us, to protect us. I think what prevents us from experiencing it fully isn't due to what it's missing, but
Mm.
the neglect and the mistreatment towards it and failing to really appreciate it. So, like I said, the challenge isn't with the body itself, it's in how we view it and
Yeah.
treating it like a prized possession, not a fixer upper. I mean, that's going to be a game changer. You watch how then responds to love. It responds to love. It will be your homie. It'll be your ally. It already is. We
Yeah.
just don't appreciate it.
Yeah.
Becoming friends with it is a game changer. And I honestly believe that body fat is just layers of conditioning and distractions that have accumulated over time that need a place to be held. So when we celebrate the body and we start appreciating those little things and we say thank you to it and for carrying us through life and getting us this far and finding its love language, I think it becomes your best friend. And when there's appreciation, there's growth. And like I said, transformation then just becomes a natural byproduct of that. But that's what I teach my clients to do. Notice your legs, thank your legs for their strength, appreciate your heart for its rhythm, even without you having to make any effort. Find something you admire in the mirror, even if it's small. Appreciate the things that support your body, whatever it is, because everything deserves love. Y- They're like your transformation team, your legs getting you moving, your mouth opening up for nourishing foods, your sneakers allowing you to, exercise, the mirror giving you beautiful, like allowing you to take in with your eyes the beauty of your body. When we create that kind of relationship with the body, then honestly, everything changes.
And for the people that might hear this and not like, that's just really far away, there has to be the ownership that I have chosen to neglect it. And I think that's hard. You have to be ready and at a place to take that accountability. I've chosen to neglect it. I bet there's one or two that'll be like, well, the chicken or the egg. Like, I started off with this and then this happened. And so was it really my fault? But it is. Everything is our accountability. And I remember when I was first starting to really, okay, something's got to change and you need to learn self love. The only way I could even begin to do that was I started exactly what you teach. I remember thinking, okay, well, there's Lisa, this soul, and there's Lisa's body. And so
Mhm.
I'm gonna recognize this thing carries me around and it takes me everywhere. And without it, like you were saying, if you and your body didn't have a relationship, if you guys break up, you're dead. So there is no but
Yeah,
like this is long-term committed relationship, all right?
right.
Let's do us part. So you're in this, I started thinking, okay, so I've been given this gift and it carries me around, but it's hard to recognize that because nowhere in the time we grow up do people talk about that. They don't talk about how your body and your soul are separate. And it's not like we went 2 years and then we hopped into our body. We didn't know what life was like without it. So it's just like everything else in life. We have taken it for granted because it's all we've ever known. And then we don't recognize, wait a minute, I should appreciate it. Because unless you've been raised in a religious environment or a spiritual environment, it's hard to recognize there might be a separation between Lisa the soul and Lisa the body. I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to treat Lisa the body with more gratitude for carrying me around. Like, how lucky am I that I don't have this condition, this condition, this condition? I haven't broken bones. Thank you. And then thank you for existing on all the sugar and cotton candy and ice cream I have fed you for all these years. I'm sure that my kidneys loved that. Like, none of my organs could function on the stuff that I have fed it for decades. How did I even make it to 52? Thank you, Jesus, for all of you still functioning. It was never given proper nutrition for a long amount of time. So that's a miracle in itself.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there will be at least one or two listeners that are in a body that feels like it's betraying them and feels like it's so far away from being healthy. It's so far away. I've tried this before and I could go off on
Mhm.
my own little theories about that. But I think, let me ask you, because you're the expert, what would you say is the very first thing? I'm imagining someone who has been ill for a while or someone who's gained a lot of weight. If they were to hear this, like, how do you even start? Because what you imagine that you would want to be grateful for seems so far away. Or someone who's living in the chronic pain, like I was saying, that it seems so far away. It's not as far away as we think, but
Right.
where do you even begin? I do want to plant one seed, and then I want you to answer. I remember the first thing I started doing, and this was so helpful, and I still do this to this day. There were things I don't love about myself, and I'm going to go ahead and admit one. I don't love my nose. And noses and ears continue to grow, right? Someone should have never told me that, because the minute I heard that, I was like, here we go, Courtney. I don't love, but I'm going to be honest,
Yeah.
because other people know this. Other people have lived through this. So I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this thing just keeps on getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then like Pinocchio, and one day it's going to be huge. And, but I'm serious. I'm serious. This
Yeah.
was a big
Yeah.
thing for me. So this is just one example. But I remember there was a day that I was like, maybe I'm going to get a nose job. And I was seriously considering it. And there was a second thought that popped in my head, and it was, but you got your nose from your dad. And one day my dad's going to be gone.
Mhm.
And so the way I started really appreciating my body was I started looking at, I got my long legs from my mom, and I got my nose from my dad. And right now, I have arthritis growing in my fingers, which isn't my favorite thing. I don't love it. But I realize I've watched my parents have arthritis in their fingers. And I've thought, oh, I'm getting this from my mom and my dad. It might be a genetic thing. But I got my long fingers from my mom. And so it really helped me to, when I wasn't quite to the place where I could be at self love, it was kind of a little ice breaking for me to be able to look at myself and be like, oh, this looks like my brother, and this looks like my other brother, and I have this like my other sibling, and these come from my parents, and one day they're going to be gone. And so, do I really want to go change my nose when it reminds me of my dad, and am I really going to be that mad that I have arthritis in my fingers when I got those from my mom? Because one day my mom's going to be gone, and every time I look at my fingers, I can be like, oh, I got those from my mom. So I wanted to plant that seed too. If it does seem like you're in that type of unbalanced, unappreciative relationship with your body, that was the way I started. What do you recommend to some clients? Do you get clients that are that far disconnected, or what would you recommend?
Yeah. Well, I love that you reframed that for yourself, by the way. I love that you, instead of it just being a nose, that it was then reframed to, oh, that's my dad's nose. And then it brought it to life, right?
Yeah.
Because as you talked about neglecting our bodies, a lot of times I think we're disconnected from our bodies. I don't know if we naturally neglect them per se, because our bodies are just a reflection of our beliefs and our thoughts within ourselves. And so they're kind of like a roadmap of, oh, hey, if I'm putting on fat here, let's take a step back. It's like our body tries to get our attention and says, okay, there's something that's off. I'm needing to store energy here. I'm needing to pack on this weight. What's interesting is you talked about your dad passing down your nose and your mom passing down her long legs. And what we don't realize that we also are passed down are hidden beliefs. And those hidden beliefs about our body can actually keep us stuck. There's a couple hidden beliefs that are consistent with women I've worked with that are trying to lose weight. And that is, the first one is, I cannot trust my body. They think that their body is the enemy. It's responsible for X, Y, and Z, right? But it's actually just responding to your subconscious signals.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is, if I lose weight, then I'll lose my identity, or I'll lose my comfort, or I'll lose my security. Those things don't come from the body, right? They come from within. So what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of losing when you change? And that's a question to ask the body, because a lot of times we just want to stay safe. We're like, oh, I know I'm safe in this bigger boned body. So if I change it, I want to change it up here in my thoughts, but my belief is that is different, right? The belief is different. The belief is, I want to feel safe, and I can only feel safe if I'm padded, if I'm protected with this armor, this external armor. Another one is, I'm not safe in a different body in general. So like women then will like unconsciously associate fat with safety, whether it's emotional safety, physical safety, social protection. That's women who have been, their bodies have been used by others. So this belief can be very ingrained due to past experiences. And a lot, this particular belief comes up a lot with women as they lose fat. They start to have panic experience. They try to sabotage their body transformation. They don't know why consciously, right? But they just know if anyone's experienced like trying to transform their body and then just sabotaging themselves every single time, it's not because you're weak. It's not because you're undisciplined. It's because there is this underlying belief that hasn't been accessed yet, but your body's just trying to protect you. It's aware of this subconscious belief. And you don't need like excess weight to protect you. You are actually seen and safe and powerful without it. It's just understanding that and truly believing that before the body. And that's why it's body transformation is more than just exercise and eating right, right? It's so much more evolved because of that, those hidden belief systems. So I love that you notice that and acknowledge that there's more that we are passed down than just those little things. In fact, talking about sabotage, I'm sure we've all experienced that in one form or another. And that's the difference between thought versus belief, because a thought is just like a momentary idea or a reaction or like an internal dialogue that says, maybe I could change, maybe I could transform my body. But a belief is like that deeply ingrained pattern of thinking that it feels like truth. It tells you, I'm just the kind of person who is big boned. I'm not the kind of person that's fit. That's what the belief tells you. Even though your thoughts are like, you know what, I'm going to try to transform my body. So beliefs are actually stronger than thoughts. You can have a new thought, but if it contradicts the belief, your brain rejects it.
Yeah.
And then that's when you experience the sabotage. So for example, if you think, you know what, I'm getting healthier, but your core belief is I always gain the weight back, then your actions are going to align with that old belief and you will just randomly gain the weight back. And you're like, how did this happen? And that's when things don't make sense. Things aren't adding up. If you've ever experienced that, like I gained 5 pounds overnight. I don't know what's going on. I'm eating so healthy and I'm still gaining weight. It's because there's an underlying belief. And so the key is repeating the new thoughts until they override the old belief. And it's called belief programming. But a lot of times we don't realize that's something that is subconsciously ruling our actions in our lives without us even knowing it. And they can be passed down through families. Yeah. So it's not necessarily DNA or obesity that's passed down per se. A lot of times it's just belief systems that are passed down.
Yes. And then we're repeating what we've known and what we've
Yeah.
seen. I was thinking it's a sad thing that we continually blame the body. Like, I'm so mad that my body won't lose weight. And yet I'm inside it. I'm the one who walks and eats the cheeseburger and I love vanilla shakes. Like, how can I blame it when I walked it to the fridge? I'm the one who walked it over there. I'm the one who drove it to the fast food to get that big. And I'm not saying don't eat that stuff. I eat like crap sometimes. So I'm not the pillar of health. But I do think what's been fascinating for me in my experience is I'm not someone who ever finds it in me to love to go to the gym. I will look for every excuse to not. But when I started to really understand the difference and that your mind is so in control of your body and what I'm thinking about my body and what I'm feeling about my body is being demonstrated by my body. You think it, you believe it, and it's your body is going to show you that. And so you can take a look at yourself and see what you've been thinking and saying and feeling about your body.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I remember you and I had a conversation over 2 years ago, I think, where you were saying, I wonder if we could just lose weight through manifestation alone. And that one little sentence, I was like, I should try that out. Why not? I'll do a little trial on my own. I'll probably still eat some ice cream. But it was the first time I had thought of that. We used to go to the gym together and you loved it.
Yeah, we did. I know.
Let's go at
I would drag you.
5:45 in the morning. Yeah, sure. Sounds great. Okay, great. Love it. But I loved you and I loved being in better shape. But I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to try this out. And the more I appreciated it, and the more I actually was like, you know what? Thanks for actually walking me everywhere. Thanks for not being 500 pounds for all the ice cream that I've eaten. No offense to anyone 500 pounds. I don't mean that offensively. And thank you for functioning when I really just want to eat crap today. Like, thank you for not shutting down on me. Who knows? And then I did start thinking, I wonder what my kidney would like to eat today. I wonder what my stomach would like me to eat today. Well, my brain would like me to eat mint Oreos, going through that. But one is thought alone. And I did not go to the gym. I did eat healthier, but it was in the appreciation. The more I appreciated it, and it wasn't always conscious, but it can be. So it was the smallest things, which was, why are you going to even start to criticize? Just stop that conversation and then go about your day and then start to be grateful little by little by little. And really, honestly, I lost weight without ever going to the gym. Thank you, God.
Stop it.
Right.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
I do know
I
that's
love
not
it.
going to help me gain muscle. So I'm not saying you all get to write off going to the gym. It's important. And I know now, the older I get, being in your 50s, you can see a difference so quickly, and how fast we lose the muscle tone, and how well, and these are all beliefs in my head too, right? So here I am preaching my own beliefs. Maybe I could hold the muscle tone longer. But I think when you're just starting off, if you can find a few things to really, really analyze, like start. In fact, I would love to, anyone who's listening, give yourself a challenge just tomorrow. Be aware, catch yourself every time you're thinking something about your body, thinking something about the way it looks, the way it feels in its clothes, the way it feels, period. And when you're hungry and what you feel like feeding it. And how are there any times during the day that you actually appreciate it? And then can you start adding in 1 to 2 things about being appreciative? And could you do that for 30 days and find a new thing every single day? Like, okay, there's a little challenge. I would like to challenge any listener to do a 30-day. I'm going to find one thing a day to appreciate. But it can be the smallest things. And if you start there, then it already transforms the relationship, right?
I love that, Lise.
And
I love that challenge.
okay, we'll do it. We'll do it together. Yeah.
Okay. I was just thinking about that, because what is a good aspect to partner with that challenge is that our emotions, a lot of times we aren't aware that they are our internal guidance system. They tell us what's off. I teach my clients how to listen to their emotions, because science usually brushes them off as irrelevant, but I feel like you can't really solve a mystery with half the clues missing. And that's what happens when we ignore the emotions, especially when it comes to fat loss or body transformation. Because if you think of emotions like a wise mentor, they're not here to sabotage you. They're here to guide us. So for example, fear might be telling you to slow down and to reassess, or anxiety might be telling you to prepare for something coming up. Or so fat loss isn't just about burning calories per se, but it's about releasing energy. So when you let go of emotional weight, you create space for transformation. So it's like decluttering your closet. In fact, you know who's the best declutterer? You are. I always remember you decluttering your and by the way, Lisa has the most pristine closet. Everything is like color coordinated. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. But once you would always declutter, you would clear out the old stuff. Same with our emotions, make room for the new. And I see emotions kind of like as waves, like they rise, they peak, and then they fall. But we don't really process them, and they get stuck in our bodies. And because emotions are stored as energy in the body when they're not worked through and they are body fat, we don't take into consideration listening to our emotions and being guided by them. If you sit down and listen to them, just like, because they come from our body, right? It's the way our body is trying to communicate with us. It communicates us with us physically, but also emotionally. I think it communicates with us first emotionally, and then when we don't listen, it shows us what's going on physically in our body or communicates physically. But emotions really impact our everything, our hormones, our metabolism, our fat storage. Our cravings often stem from our emotions, actually not from physical hunger. The only time the cravings stem from physical hunger is when, you went too long without eating. But from what I've experienced with clients, like cravings actually tell us something. Like, for example, craving sugar really is about needing comfort. And so if your body's craving sugar, you sit it down and you be, what do you need? Body, what do you need right now? What comfort can I give you? If you're craving salty snacks, a lot of times it's because you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed. And if you're craving carbs, it's you need to ground your energy. And so combining that, there's so many little avenues that you can tap into to help support the body in not just body transformation, but just surviving and thriving from moment to moment through our lives.
Yes. Well, and I think, and I don't know if this is right or not, but this is my understanding. So, feelings, like we can have a fleeting feeling. Something happens, you have an immediate reaction, you have a feeling, and it can come and go. If you continue to think about and hold that feeling, I feel like that also becomes a stored emotion. Like it stays for too long, an unwelcome visitor, and stored and can be stored in there. But I always think of feelings as fleeting and then emotions rise from your body. Like you were
Mhm.
saying, grief and
Mhm.
sadness and what is it? 5 stages of grief. You feel anger and you feel sadness and you feel grief and whatever the path is. Your emotions are trying to guide you. Your feelings aren't necessarily. So I always like to point that out because I am a person who feels a lot of feelings. And I
Mhm.
think that's where the we get the label that women are crazy. It's because we feel a lot of feelings and a lot of us verbalize when we're in our feelings.
Mhm.
We can be reactive, and yet there's a difference. There is you ask really solid good men love women emotions. It takes us into feeling. We feel love, we feel beauty, we feel connection. There is really beautiful energy in a woman's emotions, and men are taught not to feel that. So when a man connects with a woman's emotions, it's okay. It's just that we're always throwing our feelings at them
Mhm.
when they misbehave, when we're angry, when we're mad, when we're sad, when we're hungry, right? So separate feelings. Okay, I'm going to let this feeling come and go. This isn't necessarily my body talking to me, and I need to let this go. And then, okay, I'm going to really start paying attention to the emotions that are rising up in me, and they have a signal. They are in there for a reason. I've had thoughts and beliefs I've carried for years. My body is reflecting that to me. I have emotions that have been stored in there that I haven't paid
Mhm.
attention to, and some that we're not even aware of. I visualized that when you were saying that as people were losing the fat, the emotions started to come up and come out even more. You're losing fat and the emotions are expanding. And I think, oh gosh, that's so true. I think we have this vision of what it'll be like when I get in this perfect shape. And you're correct. If we're not addressing everything else, one, we may never get to what our ideal body image is. And two, there's so much more to it. There's so much beforehand. And I am of the opinion, I believe you are too, that if you're willing to start addressing the other things first, if you start this true communication with your body, if you start the true emotional appreciation, like not just thank you for walking me to the kitchen every day, but truly thank you for functioning. Thank you. I definitely have not been the person who thinks before I put something in my mouth. I wonder if my body really could use some broccoli today or really,
Well,
right?
honestly, your Rice Krispie treats are really good. And what were those things you would always make? Were these bars?
No,
I don't remember, but you're pretty good. I mean,
I'm
you're
not.
the treats you make are not bad.
Well, clearly I crave sugar, so I've got, but also my body's like, listen, she's been doing this for 40 some odd years. We're not going to get anything different. So let's learn how to function on what we've got. And it's doing great. Just kidding.
It's
But
doing great.
we- we're working together now. We're buddies. But I think it's such a beautiful way of recognizing, how about we let the first step be taking the time to be grateful for what it already has, what it's already doing, how it's taking the fact you are alive and not on machines to get this thing to function. Be grateful for that. The fact that
Ew.
you can breathe, that we don't even have to think about breathing, that our heart is beating. It's all we've ever known. And so it's like you don't appreciate being healthy until you're sick. Like, oh my gosh, when I had strep throat and bronchitis, I had forgotten what it felt like to be sick until
Yeah.
that came on. And oh, it was brutal. That cough that lingered, I kept thinking, it's really good in a way that this happened, because I have forgotten and completely taken for granted how healthy I am and how lucky I am that I don't have to think about any of this all the time. I'm so blessed. And so starting there, and then you definitely should find Sarah if there's any element. I mean, 25 years, which is impossible. So you must have started when you were 12. And what I like is you've dealt with so many different clients over so many different years, and you are the living embodiment of evolution. So if you find something new that works, you take it on, you try it out, and then you teach your clients. You've done all this evolution. You've seen all the different methods that can work together, and then you've created an entire system, and you have the evidence that it works. And it's a loving method. If
Yeah.
you want to lose weight, or if you want to get healthier, if you want to create longevity, why not do it from a method of, hey, I'm going to do this with this full-bodied approach, and it includes kindness, it includes love, it includes better relationship, it includes more nurturing, instead of, okay, what foods do I have to take out of my diet, and do I have to be at the gym at 5:45 with my friend Sarah?
Yeah.
So, which, yes, you should be doing those things if it is what your body wants and needs, and if it's going to create a better relationship. And it's always good to eat healthy and go to the gym. I'm not saying it's not, but I love this. So to improve the relationship with our body, we're going to start with gratitude. What do you think someone could do right in the next day or two, or as they're contemplating this, about recognizing the stored emotions? Like, how do we pinpoint that?
The emotions are the message. They're the messenger. So as the emotions come up, asking yourself, what is this emotion trying to tell me? And as you talked about earlier, a lot of times we project the emotions, the feelings bring up the emotion, right? And we project it onto our loved one, onto men, whoever, because we're not taught that that's simply what they are. They're just a messenger trying to get our attention, trying to give us some information. Sit with it and say, okay, this emotion is coming up. What am I feeling? A lot of times we don't even know that an emotion is coming up, but we just know that we're craving sugar. That's all we're aware of, right? Have you ever had the experience where all of a sudden you got something and you're shoving it in your mouth and you're like, wait, how did I did I go in you don't even remember going in the kitchen, opening the cupboard, taking it out, going and sitting down and eating it. And that's the belief system speaking. And then the beliefs, when they're not, when they're subconscious, they reflect an emotion that comes to the surface to give us the information. And so you can ask yourself the question of like, okay, so I'm eating this sugar. It has nothing to do with the sugar. It has nothing to do with my craving. It's deeper. Okay, so what am I feeling right now? Right? If we train ourselves to just take time to listen, okay, actually, I know why I'm stressed because this is coming up, or I wasn't paying attention to myself today. I put myself last. And that's the other thing about women in general. And I know I'm talking a lot about women just because I work with them, but this can be men as well. But women tend to put themselves on the back burner for everything else, right? And so maybe it's that a lot of times it's that we are not listening to ourselves first. We listen to our other people. We listen to society. We listen to our spouse or our significant other. We listen to our children. We listen to our parents. We listen to our friends. And we're not actually tuned in to what our body wants. So honestly, to really get to the root cause or the root of a belief system or an emotion or a feeling, it's really just being willing to listen. And a lot of times the proactive action that can fix the situation is putting yourself first for a
Yes.
moment, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of times is what are my needs? What do I need to take care of? Because of our biology, women are trained to think outside of themselves. That's what we think for the collective.
Mm.
We don't think for ourselves first. That's actually what would make us very good leaders. But we tend to just take roles where we are helping and fixing and taking care of everyone else. And so part of our life healing is to understand that, yes, we are there for the collective. We will show up for the collective. Biologically, we're wired to do that, but we also need to tune in and focus on ourselves. And this is not just do self care, right? But it's beyond self care. A lot of women think self care is like putting on their makeup or whatever. It's beyond that. It's really tuning in and listening to what your body needs.
Yes.
And so that's what I would suggest.
I think that that's true. Just take that moment because you have more to offer the collective when you're in a more balanced, healthy, loving state. So if
Mhm.
we can take that moment first thing in the morning, I don't love to get out of bed. I love to sleep in my
Mhm.
bed. It's beautiful. But once I am up, or before I even get completely out of the bed, I'll try and think of something to be grateful for. Like I have the softest sheets, and this was the greatest bed and the greatest pillow. And then getting up and then paying attention to how do I want to feel? What do I want the day to be like? And then when something
Yeah.
does come up, what do you need? And then what are you craving? Oh, I actually really want a salad today. That sounds delicious. Okay, let's eat a salad.
Mhm.
And so I think the communication with our bodies, the self-care on a deeper level, the self-love.
Yeah.
And if you can't connect with self-love, then self-appreciation, getting to the appreciation. And then I think this is one of those paths where it is difficult to do this completely on your own because we have lived our own behaviors and beliefs for so long that sometimes you do need someone above you looking down at, okay, these are your behaviors, this is what you keep doing, these are your patterns that you're telling me about. And I love that you do that. That's what
Mhm.
you've dedicated your life to doing. So it's so nice to
Yeah.
have a guide, a coach, a mentor, especially when you feel like you're doing everything right, but you're not getting those results. It's nice to know there are other people out there that have faced this and that there are solutions and that the path is not as complicated as we think. Tell people how they can find you and when, because you're doing another iteration of your program soon, right?
Yes. It starts May 1st
Okay.
and it's called Diet Rebel. You can find me on sarahsteed.com.
Perfect.
I have different programs on there. Diet Rebel is my main program, but I also offer nutrition and exercise consulting, customized nutrition plans and exercise plans. And you can also find me on social media at the Sarah Steed. That's Sarah with an H and Steed like a horse, Steed.
And you're mainly on Instagram, not so much on Facebook, but you're on both, right?
I'm on Instagram
More.
and TikTok.
Yeah.
I'm sometimes on Facebook in my stories.
Nice. So look for her. I'll make sure that there's links below. And then if you have any questions, for sure, reach out to her. And then my favorite thing to ask everyone before we end is just take a second and considering the woman that you are today and the woman that you are becoming, how would you finish this sentence? I am the one who.
Mm, that's beautiful. Okay, let me think about that. I would say I am the one who is a miracle.
Mhm.
And I would say that because we've all gone through our own most, I would say everyone's gone through our own aspects of being at our lowest to being at our highest. But I would say that when it comes to what I do for work, that our bodies are not just projects, we're temples. We're temples to return to. And we're miracles in walking form. And I've known you for so long, Lise. You've known me in my ups, my highest, and my very lowest. And we've been through some hard things together, and you've always been there for me. And so I think that when we can go through hard things and we can still be standing, we are truly a miracle
Yeah.
on this earth, just a walking miracle. And that's what humanity really is.
Yes, we are. I want to add, but I was trying not to interrupt. It's hard to honor that space of letting you come up with your own answer. You are also, you are the one who will teach women how to truly, it's beyond love. It's bigger than love. You are the one gifted the responsibility of leading women into honoring all elements of themselves.
Yeah.
And you've taken that on so boldly. You are the one doing that, and you're living it. And yeah, I've watched you through some lows and some highs, but you've always navigated it. And I think that's what's so great about you, is that you are and have always been, and now are walking into the biggest version of you, leading women into truly seeing the miracle and the beauty that they are.
Yeah.
You saw it first. It's like you recognized it right away, and now you're going to hold that mirror up for everybody else. And I appreciate that you did that. I love that
Thank you.
I love you so much. Thank you for being on here. And
Thank you, Lise. And thanks for holding space for me and seeing that, because that's exactly what I want to offer women. I want women to be able to come home to ourselves. And I think it's time that we do that. I think it's time. And I think that the dieting and body issues have really held us back from our power.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to rise. Let's rise together. I'm ready to do that. So thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
And I'm hoping that there is a bigger shift in the whole industry that leans more into this. But until they figure it out, we've all got Sarah Steed, right? Now you all know who she is. Go and find her. I deeply love you, and I'm sure we'll see you again. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on the One Podcast. We will see you again soon.